Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have something really interesting to talk about, and it's going to shake up conversations not only here in South Africa but across the entire globe. President Cyril Ramaphosa has been making waves at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, and one of the biggest highlights of his trip has been his meeting with powerful lawmakers from the United States. Now, this might sound like just another diplomatic stop, but trust me, this is not just a handshake and photo opportunity moment. This is about power, influence, negotiations, and positioning South Africa on the global stage in ways that could have a direct impact on our economy, our politics, and even the way other nations see us. So stick with me to the end because we are about to break it down in a way that makes sense and keeps you hooked. And before we get too deep into this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now, give this video a thumbs up, and join our growing family as we bring you the biggest political stories in simple and understandable language. Now let's dive into it. When a South African president heads to the UN General Assembly, it's not just about delivering speeches in a hall filled with world leaders. It's about building relationships, securing support, and making sure our voice is not drowned out in the noise of global politics. And this year, Ramaphosa has made a calculated move by engaging directly with members of the United States Congress. Remember, in Washington, Congress plays a huge role in shaping foreign policy, deciding on trade benefits, and influencing how much cooperation or pressure is directed towards countries like South Africa. So when Ramaphosa sits across the table with US lawmakers, it's not small talk, it's high-stakes diplomacy. From what we know, one of the biggest issues on the table was trade relations. South Africa currently benefits from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, commonly known as AGOA, which allows many African countries to export goods duty-free into the American market. But this agreement has been hanging in the balance because of growing tensions between Washington and Pretoria, especially with South Africa's stance on global conflicts, its alignment with BRICS, and even accusations that the government leans too closely toward countries like Russia and China. Ramaphosa's meeting with these lawmakers is a clear attempt to reassure the Americans that South Africa still values its relationship with the US and wants AGOA renewed. Without this renewal, industries in South Africa, from cars to agriculture, could face massive losses, and jobs could be at risk. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Americans are not blind. They know South Africa is trying to balance two worlds, on one side, the Western powers led by the US, and on the other side, the emerging powers of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and of course, South Africa itself. This balancing act has not been easy, and some in Washington are skeptical of whether Pretoria can really be trusted as a reliable partner. That's why this meeting is so important. It's about Ramaphosa convincing skeptical lawmakers that South Africa is not turning its back on the US, even while strengthening ties with BRICS. This is where Ramaphosa's diplomatic skills are put to the ultimate test. Imagine the scene, inside a private meeting room, the South African delegation carefully presenting their case, explaining how AGOA is not just about South Africa, but about boosting Africa as a whole, and at the same time, assuring the Americans that Pretoria's foreign policy is independent, not hostile. On the other side, US lawmakers pressing hard with questions about South Africa's relationship with Moscow, about its votes at the UN, and about whether Pretoria is serious about fighting corruption and strengthening democracy. It's a clash of perspectives, but also a chance to find common ground. This meeting also comes at a time when South Africa is under pressure domestically. Back home, Ramaphosa is struggling with an energy crisis, unemployment, and widespread frustration. Securing AGOA and keeping the Americans on side would give him a much-needed win, a chance to return to South Africa saying, "Look, we still have powerful friends and partners, and we are fighting to protect our economy." For US lawmakers, it's also about making sure South Africa does not slip completely into the arms of China and Russia, because let's face it, global politics is all about influence, and the US does not want to lose Africa's most industrialized economy to its rivals. Now let's talk about why this matters to ordinary South Africans watching this. You might be asking yourself, okay, fine, Ramaphosa met some Americans, but what does that have to do with me? Well, it has everything to do with you. If AGOA is renewed, South African industries keep their access to the American market, which means more exports, more investments, and potentially more jobs. If it's not renewed, factories could close, farms could struggle, and the ripple effect would hit the economy hard. So, while this may seem like distant international politics, it actually connects straight to your pocket and your daily life. But let's also be honest. Diplomacy is not just about smiling and shaking hands. The Americans are going to want something in return. They might want South Africa to soften its position on certain international issues, to show more alignment with the West, or at the very least, to stay neutral instead of leaning too heavily towards BRICS. The real question is whether Ramaphosa is willing to make those concessions, or whether he will continue trying to walk the tightrope between East and West. And if he tries to play both sides, will the Americans buy it, or will they see through it and demand a firmer commitment? That's the big gamble. What makes this story even more entertaining is that it's happening on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, where world leaders are all trying to steal the spotlight. It's a place where alliances are tested, where rivals stare each other down, and where the smallest body language or statement can set headlines on fire. For Ramaphosa, just being in that room with US lawmakers is symbolic. It shows that South Africa still has a seat at the table, still matters in global politics, and still has the ability to influence conversations beyond Africa. But as always, the real test will come when the dust settles. Will this meeting lead to concrete agreements, or will it be another diplomatic photo op with little to show for it? Will South Africa come out of this stronger, or will it face even tougher questions from both the Americans and its BRICS partners? Only time will tell. Before we wrap up, let me remind you again, if you enjoyed this breakdown, if you want to stay updated with these important stories, then hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community, because here we unpack the big political moves in a way that's clear, entertaining, and eye-catching. Share this video with your friends, leave your comments down below, and let's get the discussion going. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed, and remember, politics is never just politics. It's about your future.